How's it going, guys? Crescent Story here. Welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be talking with Zilla. In the actual video, it starts mid-conversation because I didn't get the full length of the video recorded because my recording program started a little late in the conversation by accident. Not late in the conversation, but, just fairly the beginning of it. But I still got the majority of the conversation right here. So, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to Zigzag's channel, linked in the description below.
So it's one of those, like, what do you affirm about yourself? And when I say I know everything, is because I truly, in the same paradox, don't know anything, And like, I go to school and I can basically, just before I take a test, I can already see that I passed the test, and that allows me to pass the test, even though when I take the test, I may not even know some of the questions, or I may not be familiar with some of the questions upon studying, but for some strange reason, when I'm taking the test, I know what the answer is. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but a lot of people just go by memorization, like you're taught to just memorize things, where in actuality, I can look at something once and I'm going to have an understanding of what I'm looking at, so that when I do take the test, even though the question may be worded so different that it may not even correlate to what you originally read, you know what the answer is just because you understood what you read to begin with. It wasn't like something that you'll go later on and just go based on memory. You'll go based on a knowing now. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, once you start to, live your life in that way where, you're open-minded, you're curious, but you're open-minded to the point where you're allowing things, to flow through and process, and then you'll just know what the answers are. This crazy things happen to me sometimes where I'm talking to certain people, they'll ask me certain questions, and I just happen to know what the answer is. Or even if I'm feeling, for example, like I'm in doubt about something, or, let's say depressed, you know what I'm saying? Like these little things, for example, like what do you do when a person's, like, they go to a therapist, right? But therapists are trained to just listen to you. So sometimes I just listen to myself, right? I just allow myself to feel certain things, and I just know what to do from that moment, But I just wanted to throw that in there only because you mentioned the whole guru thing. And I feel like everybody has that in them. I never like to put myself in that position of saying I am like a guru, but I do appreciate your compliment though. But the whole guru thing, everybody has in them. You know what I'm saying? And that's why
I said it was similar. I said it was like similar because like the way you like to just like speak is very good. It's very good. I mean, you could definitely function very good with like a podcast kind of scenario going on here. I mean, like definitely. I can't wait to see how you grow as a YouTuber and platformer, how you start like progressing in this sort of thing, because I can see you definitely going places with making these kind of videos and the kind of videos that you make. Right. Mm-hmm. And another thing I wanted to add about that thing you're saying about like that premonition is like you already know what's gonna happen. I've had that sort of thing myself, but it was an experience with my father, and I just all of a sudden I just had this feeling just deep down, like kind of like almost sick to my stomach, like this intense feeling. I was like, Dad, I don't know what's gonna happen, but you got to be careful. And just like next thing you know, speak of the devil, a few minutes later he's like working on the roof, and there's like this overhang kind of thing, and it comes crashing down, it just like falls apart out of nowhere, and he just like
what is your definition of a premonition? I'm just trying to get an understanding of that.
It's sort of like something that comes from you, like a feeling or like intuitive kind of feeling, like sense of like the future.
It's not like you're predicting the future, right? Because I'm not coming from like predicting the future. It's more or less like I'm like there, and when I meant like I'm looking at the test, let's say in my mind I see it as if I'm gonna pass it, only because I know that when the time comes I'm gonna know what the answers are when I take it.
Anybody
kind of like predicting the future.
Anybody can have that kind of feeling come to them, it's just intuition. It's sort of like the vibration of reality kind of like flows through you, and you sort of sense what's going to happen, but not exactly. You don't know for sure what the future holds. That's kind of what a premonition is. It's something that it's a calling to you from the future of like sort of like what you feel.
Yeah, I always like every time I hear premonition, I always like try to think if somebody's talking about not you, but I'm like just talking in general. I just never really knew what the root word of that meaning was. Like, if does it mean predicting the future? Or does it mean like you're making something happen? You get what I'm saying? Like, does it happen by chance, by fate, or are you making it happen the moment that you decided that that's what's gonna happen when you meet it later on? Kind of like you make something manifest the way you want it to manifest, with like direct intent and focus.
I think that's manifestation, but a premonition is just a feeling of what's going to happen for sure. And the manifestation, I think, is just like the way that you meditate, and in some kind of way, your stillness is still like sort of some kind of movement. Your mind is still some kind of authority over reality, in just the smallest kind of way. But the more and more we more and more we exist, the more authority we have with just our minds in of itself. Because the higher our consciousness gets, the more our mind grips the powers that be in reality.
Right. Makes sense. What did you want to get into, bro? In the beginning, you were talking about something about the third eye.
I was getting into this kind of visual phenomena that I've been experiencing ever since I was a child. I'll talk about some things that I've experienced that I don't know if anybody else experiences in their life. But like personally, I have these kind of visual phenomena where I see like where if I look at the sunlight, or if I look at the sunlight shining on like pretty much anything, or look at the sky where it's kind of scattered out, I'd see like this kind of like wavy sort of pattern coming from the edge of my vision to like the center of it, kind of like in like pulsating movements sort of thing. Like,
mm-hmm.
I don't exactly know what that is, but it's like it has something to do with the sunlight. I wonder if anybody can explain that,
I mean, you said you see it, but when your eyes are open or when your eyes are closed?
I only see it in the presence of some sunlight. You know?
Sunlight?
Yeah.
And what about artificial light?
Artificial light,
like lamps or anything?
I've never seen it in with artificial light or anything like that. So it must be how my eyes are just synthesizing the light somehow. I've also looked directly into the sun numerous times, but yeah, I'd get an afterglow when I look away, and it would be bright blue, kind of like a bright blue kind of spot, just kind of like light. I think it's just light funneling into my awareness or my existence or my immune system or something, to like my mind is like somehow holding it in place, and just like it dissipates into this green color, and it turns red as it fades away, as it fades off.
What do you think it is? Like the stuff that's happening to you with the vision and whatnot, what do you think it is?
I think it's my mind just processing the light and turning it into energy.
Yeah. That's actually what it is then, you know what I'm saying?
Definitely is photosynthesizing, but it's very interesting to look at. I wonder if you see the same thing. I think pretty much anybody would see the same thing.
I don't know if I've had that same experience where like pulsations with my eyes open. I definitely see like color swirls and patterns, and what's crazy is like when I'm in a deep meditation, right? And that's basically, you see the brain waves actually happening and you're aware of it, and then you start to see all these like patterns in your eyes, like the swirls, the purple lights and whatnot.
You see the purple? Do you see these colors? Do you see purple, but also do you see the green too? A little bit of green?
Yeah. I see a mix of like different colors. You know what I'm saying? Depends on the ambient I'm in. Like sometimes if I meditate and I'm like outside and it's still fairly light, I'll see a little more orange and red. But if I'm in like complete darkness, then I'm seeing more of like the cooler colors, like the purples and the blues, and I really never see the warmer colors. I see more of the cooler colors. But one thing that I do notice, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but you ever notice you're in a real deep meditation and something happens where you get startled and you open your eyes and immediately you just see like a matrix type of like pattern formation, or you'll just see like you know how lightning looks, where it looks like it's electrical patterns. That's what it kind of looks like in an instant that I open my eyes, and then everything just clears out. And that's something I do see when my eyes are open, is just upon just completely getting kicked out of the meditation and something startles me that I open my eyes. That's when I don't see everything as is. I just see everything as like a pattern. It looks weird, you know,
Definitely.
and that's what I do notice with my eyes open. Other than that, I don't notice anything else with my eyes open.
That's probably just like the energy. It's probably you just like being aware of the energy that's coming into your body. That's a very good state of meditation. That means that means you're doing a good job in meditation, you know. Because I've seen kind of the same thing, both in meditation, but also under psychedelic states, or states of like when I am eating healthy food or having like an entheogenic experience with a certain substance or psychedelic substance. I've had experiences where like I would eat tree datura, and I wouldn't make a strong dose, kind of like a light kind of dose, and I'd see like the electricity kind of like coming off my fingers or my hands or my body, and it's just kind of like flowing off of like all the plants too.
Yeah, sometimes if I'm like, you know, just gazing at something for a while, it starts to have like an aura behind it. Like if I'm staring at somebody, for example, for a while, I can actually start to see the aura behind them. I can start to see the aura. Like, let's say if I'm staring into the woods, I can start to see the actual aura over everything. You get what I'm saying? So, I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but that's kind of like the visual stuff that I see when my eyes are open and I'm just in like a regular brainwave state. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, it's just whatever you say that it is, like you're processing the energy. That's basically all I can get. That would be.
Another thing too is damn, I had the strangest experience when I was on a psychedelic. I was on LSD and mushrooms, and I was looking at photographs on my phone, and I was like, what the hell? They were like literally like, it looked like I had 3D. It looked like I literally had 3D glasses on, and I was peering like into the photo, and it looked 3D. You ever had that sort of experience? I still kind of have it right now. Every single day, whether I'm on anything or not, there's like kind of like a visual drifting over everything. So I don't know what that is. It's pretty much like the state of reality. I don't think it's the way I used to be able to see things, but like it just is what it is, you know.
Well, let me ask you this, because I speak to a few people who are like about this topic. You know, I speak to a few people, right? It could be religious people, it could be any people of any kind. But what is, for example, what is your goal? What do you want to accomplish? And what is the purpose of like everything that you do, as far as you know, taking the mushrooms, talking about spirituality, the meditation, you know, what is your goal? Do you have a purpose, or do you have something that you're trying to accomplish out of all that? And if so, how could you share it with everybody to the point where it would benefit everybody outside of it?
I think it would be finding out whether or not it could help you grow spiritually, physically, mentally. What I do want to accomplish with that is trying to find a medium in which I can, you know, have a healthy subjective experience with substances rather than a detrimental one. At some point in my life, I kind of had like different addictions. I was addicted to certain substances, weed, among other things, escape, video games, and you know, I came to the point where I'd want to expand my consciousness because I figured out about mushrooms, and I found out that it can induce a beautiful experience, and not only that, it can generate new neurons and expand the state of your consciousness, or actually be rid of any mental disorders that you have in some capacity. So that the reason why I'd want to get into medicine, or I'd want to get into pharmacopoeia or psychedelics, is just so I can pretty much just like in a sense work on my mind and upgrade it in the same kind of way that one would upgrade his car. And I'm just trying to like, I experiment.
Well, what would you consider what would you consider the mental upgrade though? How would you know you mentally upgraded? Or what is spiritual growth? Because I heard you say spiritual growth and the mental upgrade. The reason I ask this is because these are questions that I kind of like ask myself a lot, and I kind of like want to get your perspective or point of view. But what is spiritual growth? How do you know you spiritually grown? What is a healthy perspective and experience? And also, how do you know you've mentally upgraded? Like you said, you upgrade your car. I know if I upgraded my car based on like the parts I change, and if I got bigger tires on my Jeep, a bigger suspension, a faster, motor, a bigger exhaust. How do you know you've upgraded mentally?
Well, by comparing and contrasting, how you were versus how you are after, versus how you are, how it's integrated into your body, into your mind, like how it grows with you, not just as a substance or a drug or anything like that, but like as a sort of like as a sort of like part of you, how it becomes part of you, like by mentally I mean, the solid part of reality, things that we normally see of our everyday life, the more of the logical kind of consistencies of like everything. And spiritually, it's the same kind of thing it's the same kind of thing as those energies and those anomalous kind of experiences that we have, to grow in that sort of area, to have like more of a truistic experience in your everyday life, and to have it in like a healthy kind of manner. I mean, where like you're just living life and experiencing day-to-day life. Like it's like kind of like the thing I was talking about, like the premonition sort of thing, or the intuition sort of thing, or the mind reading sort of thing. That's pretty much what the gist of what I was getting into as far as spiritual wise. And people, like pretty much anybody is capable of that, but it can be sharpened in your mind, and your body can be sharpened akin to how a blade can be sharpened if it's done some work on you. If you do some work on something, it's just pretty much the body and the mind, in a lot of ways is customizable, and with what the tools you're working with, you can advance it. That's what I mean by working on it like a vehicle, because we are the drivers of this body vessel vehicle sort of thing, and it's able to be modified in certain ways. It's able to be advanced. It's like you can put better fuel in it, you could eat better, and you're just like, I'm experiencing different kind of experiences eating blueberries or different plants or raspberries, drinking a lot of lemon juice. I've done intermittent fasting. I'm doing all kinds of different experiments to see how my body functions and how it can function better as far as I can live. And I think even in the future there can be like modifications or splices between different like genders to induce a state of like eternal youth, and that would be like just taking the reproductive organs and the female stuff, and like whatever is used in both bodies to make a child, to make like a kind of hybrid that just like stays young forever, in a sense. That's kind of like another idea I've been having.
Nice. Do you think that it's possible to have these upgrades without the drugs?
Definitely.
How would one go about doing that?
It would just you would pretty much have to eat healthy food, like plants, or like whatever you're eating, whether it be fish or algae or just like whatever you're looking into. It would have to be a lot of those things that are the makeup of the precursor of whatever your mind produces in of itself, and whatever causes your minds to mutate into like a more advanced state, to evolve more, and to induce that state in of yourself is pretty much experimenting with reality, whether it be with or without drugs. Doesn't matter fully, as long as you're wholesomely responsible for your state of being, as long as you don't get caught in whatever it is you're experiencing. You know, whether it be like, you know, life, whether it be your emotions, whether it be your partnerships, whether it be your girlfriend, or like whatever you're interested into, you know, it's like all stages of life, you know, you just got to have that, you know, you just got to be in control of it. You got to be behind the wheel of it. You can't get lost in anything. But at the same time, you know, life is beautiful in many ways, and in a lot of ways we can get trapped in sort of things like drugs. And we can have experiences like that without drugs. We can have an enlightened state, or like a higher state of consciousness, or experiences like that you have on mushrooms, where you're experiencing enlightenment like every single day, even without the use of that, because like, you know, it's pretty much food is your medicine, food is your health. And yeah, what I believe though, and what I know for sure.
Can I ask you this? How does one become more spiritual? Like spiritual development, like what you mentioned before. How do you become more spiritual?
You just pay attention to it more. And
yeah,
I think it would be eating more chlorophyll, because that's just the essence of light, and the absorption of light, and the energy of like light of itself. And I think like also what causes that is just having a healthy sort of diet, just looking into whatever you can that increases your brain function, or your body function. And the meditation would help too. But yeah, spirituality is pretty much the essence of like, you know, kind of something that just like, that isn't quite there, but you know it exists. That's pretty much the essence of spirituality. Like, you know, it's some of those, it's like that sort of thing. How would you want to grow as spiritually, that you feel?
So when it like spiritual, I noticed that I didn't, at one point I actually even became vegan to try to be more spiritual. You get what I'm saying? And it was just a different way for my human experience to experience life. You get what I'm saying? But it didn't make me any more spiritual. However, it did give me a lot more clarity. And this is just based upon belief that I had toward what I was actually consuming in the form of veganism. But I also noticed that it was because of the belief I had behind what I was doing. So I noticed that the ultimate spirituality, in my opinion, happened for me when I just didn't eat, right? I was just in a fasted state. I was even consuming my own urine. I wasn't even consuming water. And this kind of like disconnected me from my reality, because I noticed I had addictions to food, and I was actually trying to compensate those addictions and mask it with like the vegan food, but whatever tasted closest to what I was addicted to. Let's say if I was addicted to pork or sausage, I would look for the imitation version of it. And now all I did was just satisfy that human aspect of myself. And I thought that I was actually doing something different, but I was doing the same thing. It's kind of like somebody who leaves the religious faith, Christianity, and goes into spirituality thinking they're doing something different, but they go in there with the same mindset of religion, and they just basically go from one religion to another, not knowing that that's exactly what they did. Meanwhile, they're in their mind, they're more spiritual. They just changed the word God to universe. They changed the word, miracles to manifestation. They changed a bunch of words around and just basically modified their version of Christianity or Catholicism to what they call spirituality. That's kind of like where I started to notice these things. So I kind of like just got fed up and disconnected from everything. Disconnected from everything, literally. And I was kind of like when somebody needs they get withdrawals and they need a fix. I kind of had to ride through it, let my humanity know that I'm the one in charge. Because if I would have gave in, I would have still been a slave to the human aspect of myself, and I didn't really take mastery over myself. The mastery came through me having to endure the pains and withdrawals and all that, and that's what made it stronger to begin with. The spiritual aspect of myself, even though the human part of it is beautiful. It's the reason why I can experience an orgasm. Is the reason why I can eat chocolate and fucking get the beautiful dopamine rush out of it. The only way that can happen is in a human vessel. So I'm also very grateful that I am in the human vessel. So I don't I don't deprive myself, but when it comes down to, let's say, doing a little cleanse, or getting back to something where I need to develop that discipline, then I'm going to deprive myself of it, and force myself to flower in other ways. Kind of like the garden. I look at the garden sometimes, and you put plants under certain stress, it forces them to flower a certain way, or grow a certain way, or produce for you a certain way. And that's how the body is. Sometimes you got to like stress it out in ways. Like you go to the gym, you stress your muscles out to make them stronger. The mind is the same way, but certain addictions I had, and even to this point, I can probably say I still have, managing those things accordingly, determines that spiritual strength you have. But even adversity, let's say, any kind of trials or tribulations, actually strengthen that too. But in actuality, man, a lot of people who are even in spirituality, or whatever you want to call that topic that we're talking about, is coming from trauma to begin with anyway. And this is why everybody uses the word healing and uses that shit all over the place. But a lot of the things come from a deep rooted belief in the things. Even the aging process, we age just because we believe in the aging process. Kind of like people say, I'm not a kid anymore. Everybody's still a child. Everybody's a child. That's why people say, oh, my inner child came out of me. It's just, you just stopped playing. You stopped doing things that you still have the ability to do, only because you think to mold into society, or to fit in, you have to act a certain way. And you could be whatever you want to be, as long as you're authentic, and you could basically play. Everybody's going to look at you and accept the way you are. But I mean, as far as to answer your question, the spiritual part, the spiritual development, you never really stop developing. You're always developing. It never stops. It's just having the gratitude for what you're experiencing every day that allows more of what, the expansion for growth to happen, is gratitude and love. Love is another topic that I also want to get into. Like, what is your definition of love? Because I feel like for anybody to develop in any way, love is the answer to everything. In this realm, you can't even exist here without love. So, what's your definition of love?
Definition of love is just, it would be the connection that you have with something. It would be it's just the overall, it's just like, it's just the home. It's being a home with like pretty much anything. There could be all different types of love. There could be love amongst friends, love of your craft, love of your work, love of,
so you're saying love is attachment?
Love of a woman. Yeah. It's being whole with something.
So do you think
that's why it has
do you think you don't think detaching is love too?
In a sense, it's like self-love.
You don't think detaching is love too?
If you're detaching from something, it would be, yeah, that's also, I would agree that it would be love. It would be loving yourself more, if you could think of it like that.
How do you love yourself more through detachment?
You'd pretty much have to separate yourself from whatever is hindering your reality, whatever is starting to curse your reality with bad energy, bad luck, bad health. If it's an addiction, that's a way you would find self-love through detachment. Or finding love through detachment is you would cure yourself of any of your addictions or whatever social problems that you may have, or whatever emotional problems that you might have, you know. Detachment from dumb things, like, let's say you're addicted to video games, let's say you're addicted to meth or heroin or any other kind of drug. Detachment from that in of itself, if it's a problem in your life, would be love. Detachment from let's say you have a partner that's mistreating you or abusing you in some kind of way. Detachment from that would be self-love. You know?
Yeah. Also, what is I heard you talking about it in the video, and I want to know if you came up with the answer to it. But you watched my video with that debate I had. What is the difference between soul and spirit?
The definition between the mind and the spirit, or the soul and the spirit. I thought initially they were the same thing, but I realized that they're actually pretty different. I had asked my phone what it was, but I actually forgot it not too long ago.
You didn't ask God. If you ask God, you'll never forget the answer. If you ask Google, you're depending on a vice or a device to answer that question. That it's basically you're asking a computer to answer what you are. You get what I'm saying? When sometimes even the smallest imbalances people go to doctors for, and even a doctor doesn't know what's wrong with you. You know more about what's wrong with you than the doctor does, but yet we only go there because we have faith and depend on the doctor more than anybody else. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I said if you ask God, you'll know the answer, 100%. What is God?
I don't know. I've always kind of looked for the answer to that. I've prayed to God. I've seen synchronicity happen. I do believe in it. But you know what I wouldn't necessarily believe in is just pretty much whatever people's perception of God, whatever's written about God. I don't think I would believe in that. I think I would only believe that it's a higher form of experience. I think God is reality of itself, and reality can tell you many things. But God, as far as I can tell, just is. Kind of like how consciousness is I think therefore I am. I get that quote. I think God is, therefore he's real, or therefore reality is. I don't know. I think God and reality are one and the same. But I don't know if God, through my personal experience, as much as I prayed for something to happen for God, I'd have to do the work, and I'd have to believe.
What kind of work?
That I'd have to.
What kind of work?
Just whatever it takes to get whatever goal I'm trying to get, whether it be my girlfriend or a new job or to get things in check. I'm usually in a state of desperation if I'm praying to God for something.
When you talk to God?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of look at God like a genie in a lamp then.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah. Where I'm just like,
so
I don't know.
This is the thing. So then that means that, there's a lot of people who say God is really the devil then. Because you notice when you're in a hellish state is when you look for God. So that means you look for God in that frequency. So you should be, how people say, you even said before, as a man thinketh, right?
Yeah.
So in whatever state you're in, it doesn't matter what it is, you have an authority over your life to begin with, and that's why in actuality, when it comes down to, even like when we spoke about detachment before, I notice that when I am in the frequency of love, I don't necessarily have to do anything as far as detaching. Whatever is not in harmony with love just happens to fall off my life. You get what I'm saying? And we can say I detached it without actually detaching it, right? Because the fact that I maintained a certain frequency, I didn't level to a lower frequency. Let's say if you had a toxic partner or whatnot, that partner is still a mirror of yourself. But in order for you to detach from that, it wouldn't be where you would have to break up with her. You get what I'm saying? Like you're basically just changing yourself genuinely from within because you have enough self-love to not go through certain levels of toxicity. And that's sort of a sacrifice in a way. I look at my body as like my body is the body of Christ. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes uh I had this little realization through like meditation and whatnot that whatever I'm experiencing, I am affecting humanity as a whole, like the entire world. You know what I'm saying? Like the entire world is in me. And it doesn't matter if it's people in China and where, it doesn't matter. I'm affecting the world. So even when I fast, right? I'm the one enduring the hunger pains. I'm enduring a bunch of the stuff that comes through that purification or through the purging. You know, I may experience vomiting, I may experience headaches, whatever it may be, but I'm the one enduring it. And it's purifying my body and in kind it's purifying the world that I'm experiencing, which is my world view. Even though you're experiencing your reality, if I'm a toxic individual and I'm doing it en masse, like let's say through the means of the internet,
Mm.
um, I'm now doing it in a more of a network parasitic type of way. Where we can look at it, you have internal parasites like intestinal parasites, but you can also be an energetic parasite. Um, just depends on, and that's coming down to self-awareness. Like, are you aware of yourself and the thing? Like a lot of the Christian virtue comes down to treat your neighbor as you would yourself, or do unto others as you would want done unto you. A lot of people would follow that only because they're afraid of consequences of going to hell or getting locked up. Because you know how many people want to do like crazy shit, but they don't do it just based on consequences that they're afraid would happen to their individual humanity. But if you just did it because you know that that's something that's in you, because you are on a frequency that, let's say that's in harmony with like uh universal harmony. Again, you can't be here in existence if you weren't love. Love is what keeps everything held together and growing, you know. And that's why sometimes like humans, for example, are the real aliens on this planet, because you're in a vessel right now that you think you're so attached to and so, you know, closely related to, or you identify with it, that it goes into layers of even the things you identify as. Like let's say people say I'm a vegan or I'm a this, I'm a that. You're none of those things. You're not even the actual vessel, right? And humans, for example, I feel are super disconnected from themselves. That's why they don't know themselves. They don't know, you know, they don't know what and who they are. Because you know, what real aliens have you ever seen outside of you? What, you know, God figure has anybody ever really seen outside of themselves? And if they have, they're genuinely truly looking at themselves. But it would have to be where when you see that, you recognize that. You don't look at it and say, oh my God, look, that's Jesus Christ. You know, like, no, you literally, it's like if you were looking in the mirror and you recognize yourself. Suppose that if you looked in the mirror and instead of seeing like Zach, you saw a big black guy with a big ass beard, you'd be like, who the fuck is that, right?
Yeah.
But
I'll be like,
it's kind of
whoa.
like that.
I'll be like, damn, I'm Tyrone
Yeah.
now. Like, do I get the end
Yeah.
pass? I'm like, nah, I'm just kidding. It'll be kind of weird
So,
coming from
so
a white
that's
guy's
what
perspective, though.
so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you, even though it doesn't look like, let's say, like if I'm looking in the mirror, or like let's say I see something in that state, like it's in a certain state. It could be through, you know, let's say altered states of consciousnness. You could see a demon, you could see Jesus Christ. It doesn't matter what you see, but somehow you recognize yourself. You're like, holy shit! Like it's like really hard to explain. Like you see yourself, like you recognize yourself, even though it doesn't
Yeah.
look like what you're used to looking at in the mirror.
That is
It's really, really trippy, man.
I know. Like, a consciousness in of itself is trippy, and we're trying to replicate it.
Have you ever had dreams of certain people, and in the dream you knew them intimately, but then you wake up and you're like, I don't know who the fuck that person was. You don't know who they are.
I've had those dreams before. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I talk to people, I'm like their friend, and I'm like, I wake up, I don't know who those people are. And sometimes I see colors that I never seen in my life, yet my brain, I'm observing my brain identifying with the closest color that it can actually identify it as, according to whatever programs I know. Like, let's say it's closely related to a color green, I would identify it as a shade of green. Meanwhile, it was not even the color green. And I observed my computer brain doing that, you know?
So it's beyond the visual spectrum.
Right, because everything that, like, let's say if I see Jesus, I mean, we only know what a human looks like based on the things I see outside of myself and programmed to see what a human looks like.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, you go into the woods and you never were taught about what a rattlesnake was, but you hear a rattle in the woods. Would you be as afraid of that noise if you didn't know what a rattlesnake was?
So I think I probably would be.
For example, like even if you was to go into the deep woods and you see a little green alien, it's an alien because it doesn't exist. You can't identify with anything other than it's an alien. Like, you're told what an alien looks like, what an alien is, right?
Yeah.
But it's only alien to you because you've never seen it in your reality. So in my opinion here, this is something that I've came to a realization. I've never seen what an actual virus looks like, right? And viruses are programmed in us, and you all of a sudden think bad because we're programmed to think of bad and good, right? But viruses are the reason why you're even here as a human to begin with. You know what I'm saying? It's part of why you're evolved here as a human. And there's viruses that have light emitting properties. Okay? So if you look, for example, when you get sick, and I'm not a medical doctor, I use this disclaimer so it doesn't get us in trouble here. I'm just making content. I'm a science fiction person here. You take this information for however it is, but when you get sick, we say we have the flu, right? And that flu is short for the word influenza. And that word influenza, when you look at the etymology, the root word of that, not etymology, but the root word of that word is influence of the stars. That's where the word influenza came from. And what's falling from the sky every day are viruses. And we're interacting with them on a daily basis. Every day, even though you don't get sick, you're interacting with them.
You're interacting.
Let me finish.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to finish this train of thought so I don't lose it. But then I'll let you jump in. I don't want to get too long-winded. But, I hear a lot of people online talking about these aliens and whatnot, people with big ass channels, but then they'll come out later and say that we're in a simulation, and those two things are very, very contradictory, right? So we have to try to get to the root core of what that, where that thought stream is going to come from. Like, let's say if we want to talk about you're in a reality, your reality, you believe it to be one way, I may believe my reality to be another way. Which one is true? It's the realm of infinite possibilities here, So if you get sick, your body is supposed to process the virus and build a memory and a defense toward it. So you've now, like, that's where the saying, like, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So you've now went through a process of evolution there, okay? Now, if you look at us as a human species, versus other lesser species, we're told that we have domain over everything here on the planet and whatnot, and everything that's outside of us in nature is basically you're all the animals, everything, people, things, everything is it's you. It's what you are. You're collapsing it into existence. What I think about viruses, that's the mind virus. That's where it's going to start to begin with. That's where my belief is going to start.
Yeah.
So now we have these new stars, these things that we're experiencing coming close to our reality. When you look at, for example, the E. coli universe, and you look at our universe, they're very closely equated. You could look this up actually. The E. coli universe, and everything that we are processing is meant for us to process. We're supposed to process it, but we're always blocking ourselves from it. You know what I'm saying? Like uh, constant vaccinations, flu shots every season, every year. And this is where I feel the abomination is really coming in, or the dormancy of what we actually are, like what your experience here is to be as far as like an evolved human, evolved spirituality. It goes hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that's happening as within is happening so without, as above, so below, but it's also happening, whatever's happening esoterically or etherically is also happening in your physical realm. Like you have to think about something, obviously, for something to happen here. But I feel like the things that we are blocking ourselves from, running away from, or defending ourselves from are the things we're supposed to commune with. You know what I'm saying? Such as like viruses, bacteria, other people. It doesn't matter who and what they are. You know what I'm saying? You may trigger me, and that's something that I can actually closely look at it and look at it as a blessing in disguise and say, well, why is it triggering me? Ask myself all the questions that I want. You know what's crazy? I'll ask people the most random questions. I may ask you the most random questions. And somebody would say, well, why does he ask such weird questions? Sometimes I just want to know what the reaction of the individual is. I'm kind of like an alien, probably, examining humanity to figure out what the hell comes out of your mouth, or I'm pretty much reverse engineering why you're even in the state you're in right now. Where do your beliefs come from? Where are they stemming from? Or were you indoctrinated? Were you programmed to believe something? Why do you use certain words? Why do you believe the things you believe? You know what I'm saying? Did you just move from one program to another and think you evolved? Like kind of like I use the example of the spirituality and religion thing. It's like some people jump from religion to spirituality to become adversaries, and they're just jumping into another religion because they haven't left their religious mindset. I'm gonna let you jump in because I know I went a lot long-winded in there, but what are your opinions on what I just said as far as like, evolution, mental evolution? I know you talked about, mentally evolving and whatnot. That's why I kind of asked you these questions about how do you know you've mentally evolved? How do you know you just haven't improved your humanity? Because a lot of people say they're spiritually woke, but they're just more in the position of a fancy way of expressing themselves. They'll even start dressing differently. They may wear a turban. May wear a toga or whatever the hell they wear. They may start to wear beads now. They may start to wear different jewelry, and that they say that they're following their ancestors or they're more evolved. But I just think that sometimes in certain people, that's just their ego dressing themselves up to express themselves a certain way, when in actuality they don't even know the least bit of what true spiritual evolution is. If I was to really dig deep as an alien, what is your opinion on all that?
Yeah, personally, like the way I'd kind of go about it is, the way I'd kind of dress myself up as ego kind of wise. What I want to do is I'd want to have like a good physique. I'd want to like dress like, probably like go running in nature. I like the modern kind of aesthetic more than I do like kind of like the, hippie kind of ancient ones. What are the three things you want to ask me?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. For example, like, of course, I go to the gym and I want to present myself a certain way. Matter of fact, when you're in shape, it shows a level of discipline and responsibility towards your body. You get what I'm saying? It's kind of like somebody coming out the house and you may dress nicely. You're going to wash your clothes. You want to present yourself in society as a presentable individual. You know what I'm saying? It's not for anybody else. It's basically more for yourself, first and foremost, because if you think about it, would you like, let's say if I came across somebody and they smelled horrible, I'm not going to feel too pleasant around them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if anything, I'm just kind of like being how I would want somebody else to present themselves to me, The questions I was asking is, what do you think about the evolution of what I spoke about with viruses, spiritual development, mental development? Because I asked you before, how do you know you've mentally developed? How do you know you've spiritually developed, or you're spiritually developing? And just based on everything I said,
I want to go into viruses.
The viruses, the aliens.
Viruses, I think, are just like things that interact with your body that don't necessarily know the consciousness of your body. Viruses could be used as an ally or in some kind of way, some kind of aspect. It could be like a power that you use. You could turn it into an ally, or you could just kill it and assimilate it, which is pretty much, I think, what the body is just trying to be doing. It's pretty much a war that is waged on the body by whatever thing is trying to infect her, or trying to eat off of it, consume from it. So you pretty much would have to expand your mind and increase your consciousness and just like make the complexity of it more of a...
Who's making the war though? Who's making the war?
Whatever it is, it's kind of like it's a foreign kind of virus or something. It could be deadly. It could be rabies. It could be anything. But yeah, the way you find the cure to these things is increasing the complexity of your immune system to deal with that sort of thing. Because sometimes, these
How
things...
How do you do that?
Go. I don't know. You just do as much research as possible into adaptogenic substances. Like it's just like, I don't know. You could even eat dirt.
What's the immune system?
It's the protective barrier. It's what keeps your body healthy. It's like, it has to do with this is how your body functions, pretty much. Your immune system is your immunity to illness, I think, is what it is.
You know how I feel we start the war? We start the war the moment we start participating in medications and vaccines and adaptogens and all that type of stuff, and thinking that we're combating something. I don't feel like anything should. I mean, here's the thing. I believe this is like a big worldwide placebo. You get what I'm saying? I feel the body is so resilient and so strong that nothing can hurt it. You should go through flu-like symptoms where you'll feel like you've been basically hit by a car, but it should never kill you, other than just basically when your body just can't hold a conducive charge anymore, because that's basically when we're ready to die, put it that way. So in my opinion, I feel the immunity has a lot to do with your mental state, your beliefs toward what you're experiencing in your reality, and that's your protective barrier. And I made this example in some of my videos, and this sounds far out, but it's actually something that's tangible. It's just that this is what true mind over matter is. Like when you talk about being more spiritual, this is basically what it is just mind over matter. Like people materialize their things and matter first, and then they consider everything else secondary, when it's mind over matter. And it's, if you have it in this way, you have more of a position of authority, more of a control of the wheel, in my opinion. But I can basically, I've made this examples in videos where there's people who have drank strychnine and nothing happened to them, having snake venom go through their veins and shit, and nothing happens to them. But that's because they don't believe in the way we believe that you can die from these poisons. You know what I'm saying? Now, somebody can say, wow, but we saw them doing it and they didn't die. And then one may want to go and do this now, and would they necessarily survive? No, because deep in them is still a deep-rooted belief that strychnine is poison and they can die. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes things happen to you where you would say, how did this happen to me, even though it wasn't on your mind or thinking about it? Programs, all these things, such as like the same way genetic weaknesses get passed down from one person to another, one individual to another, like through family members. It's the same way these programs and beliefs and all that. Because let's say a child, they're all of a sudden scared of bugs, detrimentals, where did that come from? You know what I'm saying? That came from the parents. And then the child may be like, why am I so scared of bugs?
I think it also comes from a primal instinct of fear. Why a child might fear like black widows. I think it might be an evolutionary advantage that your kind of DNA, your body kind of already has when you were born, as to be afraid of spiders, because they could kill a small child, a spider, a black widow or something like strong.
Well, let me ask you this. A child is born knowing how to swim, right?
Yeah. I got swum since I was
why is it that so why do we not know how to swim when after a little bit we just don't know how to swim anymore. It's because the parents shook the fear of God into them. The moment they, let's say if a newborn falls into a tub, the first thing that happens is that the parent panics and gets so scared that that's already programmed. The child is not aware. They're not conscious like an adult is, but they're absorbing their environment. So it's getting programmed into them. So like, let's say, for example, these black widows and whatnot, I agree with the whole evolution thing, because there's actually a snake that developed their tail to look like a spider to attract birds. And this is basically how they are now better predators, because they've developed something in their body. And through evolution, they've been able to actually grow this out of their tail to catch spiders now. I mean, to catch birds. Now their tail looks like a spider. But these are based on like the animal kingdom that we observe outside of ourselves as ourselves, you know, and we have dominion over the planet. We're not a predatory species. You know what I'm saying? We're the ones that can basically say why we have dominion over the planet. So we don't have to develop survival anything, in my opinion. Okay, because I don't want to say that these are the ultimate claims and then people go and, you know, start to do things differently with their lives. I feel like everybody should listen to the information, but not take everything literal that they're listening to. Because in my reality, I know how my reality works. You know how your reality works. But here's the main thing from this perspective. When it comes to, let's say, having, I even fucking lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something about the evolution. I was talking about the spider, the tail, this is what I was going to say. So if let's say, for example, a cobra, you know what I'm saying? A cobra is a venomous creature that if it bites you, it will kill you, you know? But here's the thing though, a person, and there's been accounts of this where yogis have been meditating in the middle of the jungle, right? And they were in such a deep state of meditation that they were emitting a certain frequency, and the cobra or any of these wild animals that normally would like attack a human were in harmony with the human. Like the cobra, you see how when you play a flute and you all of a sudden see the snake dancing, right?
Yeah.
When a person is in a deep meditative state, they're basically emitting the same kind of frequency that's causing the venomous snake to actually meditate next to them and actually dance right next to them as if a flute was playing, right?
I've done that too.
So
I've done that with I've been able to like gently pick up like black widow spiders or like scorpions or things that would usually attack you, you know. I've even handled a snake one time, but I don't like to do that because I just know that there's a huge risk in that. But I've been able to get to that point. There's a certain level of gentleness that you have to.
My whole point to that too is that don't forget when you're aware and conscious, your humanity is online, and your humanity is a fearful animal. You get what I'm saying? It takes a lot. You should never really be in fear around animals. Like if you notice how an animal strikes usually when they're in fear, a lot of people usually pick them up carefully. But why are you maneuvering it carefully? It's because you're fearful. You know, if you weren't fearful, you wouldn't be maneuvering it carefully. You'd probably be maneuvering it as if you know your own pet. Right. That's why it's risky, you know.
I'm just cautious around certain things because, you know, your own pet could be your dog, and your dog probably isn't deadly poisonous. Like you don't want to startle a snake. That's why you're careful. I don't think it's mostly from a place of fear more than it is like caution, because I'm very confident in kind of states that would kind of be terrifying, but also, you know, in essence, I'm a little bit afraid to die. You know, I don't want to die right now, and there is the off chance that it could bite me. So there is that. You know, you can be cautious around certain poisonous animals, especially like, you know, like something that's like with a strong poison like a cobra. It's very painful.
Let's say if I became a professional snake handler. You see, I wouldn't have any fear because I know how to handle a snake. But either way, I'm still going to be fearful and cautious because I know the repercussions of the fact that if I don't, you know, execute the maneuvers carefully, then I could potentially get bit and I would die. But it's still coming from a space where my humanity is fearful of the animal.
That fear is always in the back of our minds, though, because it's just like, yeah,
exactly.
But
it's in the back of your mind. It's there.
It's the fact that you have the balls,
state, right?
It's the fact that you have the balls to overcome that fear and have the courage to face it, and to face that animal's experience.
If you became a professional snake handler, you wouldn't be as fearful because you know how to handle the snake, but you would still have the caution because the fear is in the back of your mind that it can bite you if you're not careful.
I think my dinner's ready though. But yeah. What? Oh, my dinner's is ready though. I think I got a knock by my partner. Is creating dinner, making dinner. Okay. But yeah.
Did you have any questions that you wanted to cover real quick? Because I know that you told me when you watched the debate video, you said you had a few questions that you wanted to ask.
I want to ask you something. What is your purpose on this channel, or of your channel? What do you do?
Journals.
This kind of thing.
I journal, and the reason why is because I go back and watch my videos, and it answers questions that I may have, and I answer myself just going back to watch my old videos. That's how I know I'm sometimes channeling my future self when I'm talking on camera in the now moment, and my future self will listen to it, and it answers the questions that I had in that moment. It happens so synchronistically too. So the same way I feel like we're in a dream, you know how people document their dreams, right? So people document their dreams. Why do they document their dreams? Because they're trying to figure out what's in their subconscious mind. We all run on programs. Every day we run on programs. We do things unconsciously sometimes, and sometimes I make videos and I don't even remember what I said. So when I go back, I watch them, and it's enlightening, So the whole purpose to it is to journal it. It assists me, and I'm sure that if somebody else listens to it, it assists them. So I do it, and it's basically coming out of a loving space. Even if it's debates, even if it's discussions that, I have the utmost respect, for example, like Joey Carbstrong. Even though we had a debate, it still was coming from a loving space, in my opinion, and I had a lot of respect for him. And that's the reason why he gave me a lot of respect in return.
That's a good debate.
I don't agree with a lot of things. It was a great debate, yeah. And a lot of it is, that's the reasons why. It's more journaling. I journal. And that's why when I feel like I'm inspired to make a video, then I'll just do it. And it has to be then and there. I can't wait. Because the moment I wait and I try to do it later, it's gone. It's not there anymore. So it has to be then and there.
I'd say it's better than Vegan Gains kind of debates. If you ever watched a channel called Vegan Gains, you see in every one of his debates, he's talking to someone that's bound to disagree with him anyway, and it just gives me a headache every time I listen to it, because he says, name the trait of this animal, blah, blah,
but Vegan Gains, man, is I mean, if you look at him as an individual, he's a depressed individual. He wants to kill himself. He has to take medication. So you can kind of see the reasons why he's even in the position he's in. That's him. That's his problem. He's super disrespectful at times. I've watched other channels where they're very disrespectful, and I'm fine with that. I like that. You know what I'm saying? It's entertaining, and there's a market for it. And sometimes I catch myself even watching it as neutral as possible, because I kind of like to see the both sides literally giving it their best. In actuality, it's actually very enlightening when you can see both sides giving it their best, But yeah. Any other questions you had?
I'm not vegan or whatever, but I was vegan for like 7 years, and it was pretty good. But I just decided at some point I'd eat whatever comes on my plate, and just like no one cared too much about it, as long as it's healthy, as long as it's like wild caught or something like that. I don't really like farm raised animals. It has like a different sort of taste even than the actual wild caught sort of like animals that you hunt.
I thought you said you were going vegan. The last video I saw, you said you were going vegan.
Yeah.
And why were you going vegan? Because you said after you heard Joey's argument, you said you were going vegan, and that's actually something I was kind of curious about. What did he say that wanted to convert you to go back to veganism, and why are you not vegan if you said you were going vegan?
Well, basically, I just wanted to I just wanted to go back into it just to avoid eating the meat that's been kind of processed in the way that it is in the animal agriculture industry.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going vegan. Maybe, I've rethought of that decision since, and I wanted to carefully go through it again. And what I decided to do is I'd pretty much essentially be vegan, aside from like maybe fish. And I usually never go hunting, so I pretty much am essentially just vegan mostly. Mostly I'm like, it comes from like nature, and it lives in nature and is caught from the wild and not raised up. That's the kind of like thing I'm going for, because usually the way that the animals is farmed, I don't necessarily agree with. It just seems like unsanitary in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is pretty disgusting, man. I mean, you watch those vegan videos, it makes you want to go vegan. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I was curious, man. I wanted to know, what he said that wanted, because I know you specifically said after hearing the debate that you want to go vegan. That's why I was like, whoa, I'm curious why that happened. What was the exact words he used that wanted to convert?
I don't know any exact words. I think it just like kind of inspired me to go back to my root kind of state, where I'd want to like avoid like a life of imprisonment kind of suffering type thing that the animals kind of go through, where they feel like definitely feel like they're in jail. I know that just like makes the product or the meat itself unhealthy. I think that everybody in the world should primarily be more vegan, or that the population control should be more in effect, because the world can grow up to like extreme proportions and be festered. There's one way to solve the population sort of thing, which is I've heard this where Terence McKenna, I don't know if you know Terence McKenna, but he said,
I know
but he made a statement that rang true, which is that if every man and woman were allowed one child, the population would be cut in half in like 50 years. I think that would kind of help like population getting to extreme proportions, or getting like getting too high.
What
do you think?
Yeah,
about
I know
that?
you talked about energy, about what? Oh, the population getting too high.
Yeah.
How would that negatively affect the world if population got too high? What is the negative repercussions of that?
I don't know. It might just be that the resources can be divided amongst us that fast, or maybe we could just like terraform some other planet, or just like colonize space or something, and just like have like an endless amount of people. But who knows? There's only so much space that the Earth has, right?
Well,
but yet again,
that can go into such a big rabbit hole, because then I would have to get into, can we actually even leave space? If we go into the simulation theory, that would have to be a big question to pretty much ask. And also, I don't believe in scarcity of any kind and in any way. I believe that's something that's just put into people's minds, and it starts to put people in a panic mode. As far as like, like we hear, for example, all the time that the universe is abundant. There's, unlimited supply for everybody. I'm really big on that. I feel like there's no scarcity unless you believe in the scarcity. There's no limited resources unless you believe in limited resources. I don't believe in flat Earth or round Earth. I don't believe in none of those things. I believe in the fact that how I collapse existence is exactly how it is. Like, for example, I'll give you a little example here. Like you may hear online that the doomsday apocalypse is happening, and you may feed into that so much that you'll go become a doomsday prepper, and you may experience a doomsday apocalypse in your reality. You get what I'm saying? And it may come in different ways.
I don't know for sure if there would be too many people. Maybe it's like fucking, I don't know. I never
as many people as being born as many people as is dying too.
I think so. Yeah, that's true.
So here's the thing though too. I know you talked about energy in the beginning of the video, but do you feel like you can transmute and transfer energy
Yeah.
as an individual? Yeah, right. So, do you believe in reincarnation?
I mean, I'm not really sure.
Okay.
I would hope
Do
so.
you believe in cause and effect?
Yeah.
Yeah. In the physical, there's cause and effect, right? In reality, for example, there's no cause of anything, but in the physical, there's cause and effect. Let's say, for example, and I gave this example to Joey Carbstrong, but he didn't want to answer it, right? I gave him this example where I said, supposed that these animals that are experiencing all that torture in the slaughterhouse, how would and all the suffering that they're experiencing, how do we know that they weren't uh, causing that to others in a past life? If we want to talk about past lives or reincarnation and whatnot, again, that's one of the questions that we would have to ask if we go into, like, let's say, what your reality here is now, you know. But how do you know that that's not a possibility? If
Because I
spiritual
haven't
people are
had
always
any,
talking about past
because I
lives
haven't
and
had any verifiable experience that.
you haven't had any evidence, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I wouldn't believe that sort of
How would
thing
you believe?
because, I noticed that pretty much any animal, I'd pretty much just recognize just as having their own experience.
So what's the lottery ticket that my cat, for example, lives in a warm place, gets fed, you know, the best food, and the consciousness of that cow happen to fall into that cow that's experiencing that reality? What are the odds that I came into this reality and I'm living middle class, and then my best friends live like millionaires in California? Why is that a thing? You get what I'm saying? Why do some people have better experiences than others then?
I
What is
think
the
it just,
lottery ticket for somebody to live homeless over others?
I think it has to do with fate mostly. A lot of people are born deformed, disabled. A lot of people are born without all the luxuries of life. A lot of people are born into poverty and aren't able to get out of because of some mental constriction. A lot of people are born just like, it's just luck, and you gotta appreciate it as much as possible. That's what I think it is. That's what I think. It's like,
so you think it's a lottery ticket?
Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to disagree there, because that's just being like let's say just flowing on a wind, on a leaf, like a leaf flowing on the windy day. You know what I'm saying? It's just, there's no direction, there's no aim. How do we know, like, for example, the person who's born handicapped didn't want to experience that experience to pay some type of karmic debt, right? Here, if you observe reality here, and I don't want to be dogmatic, but if you observe reality here, let's say you do something bad, what happens to your physical vessel? You get robbed of your experience, you get put in a jail cell, and you have to serve your sentence, and you have to pay that to the system that we're observing as the government, or to the state, right? Or to the country that you live in. So if we talked about before, as above, so below, as within, so without, how do we know that that's not something that's actually happening in forms that we're not aware of? And the only reason we don't see it is because we choose not to see it. You get what I'm saying? You know how people say seeing is believing, or believing is seen? But how do we know that these are things that we're not seeing only because we choose not to see them, because we're only depending on what we see with the physical eyes?
I'm not sure if, like, the person that's in the disabled body is like having to be there because he experienced, like, because he did bad things in his life, because he did, like, things that were immoral.
We never know. Maybe, or there's a karmic debt that he has to pay, or he has to have that experience to basically have some type of evolvement. How do we know that that's not a possibility? You hear this from spiritual gurus all the time. And here's the thing: none of these claims are beliefs of mine. These are things I've just came across from actual certified spiritual people that a lot of people online listen to. You know, they'll say that some people may have been born, handicapped because they're paying karmic debt, or they're having to live that experience to get to the next stage of their evolution. You get what I'm saying? Or let's say, for example, it enhances. Let's say they're born blind. It's meant to enhance some other form of extrasensory perceptions that they have. How do we know these animals? Which, in actuality, if we look at, do you believe we're in a simulation theory? Do you believe in the simulation theory?
I think a lot of people like to say that, I think that's another religion in of itself.
Everything.
I'd say everything is just made of like imaginary and thought, and in a sense, you can think of it like a game.
Placebo.
But yeah.
Placebo.
In a sense.
You know what's crazy? If we were to believe in a simulation theory, right? Everybody outside of you would be NPCs. So that means that the animals really don't even exist. The animals are just programs that you're observing there in your reality. And then you would say, well, why are they experiencing that? And those are just animalistic parts of yourself that you're experiencing in your reality, having to go through that pain and torture. But now, if you said you could transfer and transmute energy, how do you know that you as the Christ body cannot take in that energy? Let's say, for example, we have holidays, we have like good times, because normally we build memories off like, dinner time and just certain things that we do. How do we know that that animal ain't experiencing now the reality through you upon you eating that animal?
That is a good thought to have.
Why did the whole concept of prayer even come about, where before you eat an animal, you bless the energy, or you transmuting energy? But the concept of prayer came in from, an external God blessing your food.
I think the reason why I wouldn't know whether or not the animal's experience is running through me is because I don't have like the solid memories of what's going on, or the memory of like where it's from. Kind of like.
Well, you just said that the animal going through that hell in the slaughterhouse is unhealthy, and if energy can only be transferred and transmuted, then that means that whatever pains and sufferings that animal went through in the slaughterhouse is actually going to your body.
I think right? You do experience kind of that. It's like lethargy or pus or whatever, like whatever unhealthy things happen to the body, lack of awareness or lack of any involvement, just like constantly sheltered, maybe in like a small stall or something like that, some kind of like solitary environment. I'm not a big fan of that.
And when they get killed, they release a chemical in their bloodstream that you actually eat. So all that, like, let's say adrenaline and whatnot, is pumped into the muscle of the animal, and you're eating that. But do you believe you can transmute and transform that energy?
Oh, like the question that guy, like the monks, the guy thing that
Yeah, we had that. He didn't want. He asked me the same question with the question that I asked him. You noticed that, right? And then people say that I didn't answer his question, which I did, but he didn't answer my question. But here's the thing, though. None of this even matters, to be honest with you. These are just topics of discussion to put into question, why do we do the things we do? You get what I'm saying? But the whole thing about it is that even with the animal, let's say, why do you feel that even the plants that we eat, the psychoactive drugs that you want to take, why do they have an effect on your brain and body when you're ingesting them? What is the difference between that to the animal you're ingesting? How would you not be having an altered state of consciousness when you ingest the animal in the same way?
I think you have an altered state of consciousness for pretty much anything that you eat, regardless of what it is. Right. It affects you in a certain way, mentally, 100%. Physically. It could be anything. Red meat. It's kind of like sedating 100%. In a way.
So that's why I wanted to make sure if it makes sense what I said. Because see, here's the thing. So if we look at it from the perspective of the animal having that experience through you, and then all of a sudden now what you eat becomes you, and what eats you become, right? Because energy can't be transferred or destroyed. It can only be transferred or transmuted, right? So let's say, for example, if the animal is experiencing it through you, then how do we know that the plants you're ingesting aren't actually, you're the observer and you're observing the plants having that experience through you, but you think that you're the one having that experience? So let's say, for example, you take some psychoactive drugs. Do you think that you're the one having that altered state of consciousness, or are you observing the plant having an experience through you from a higher perspective, like a higher vibration, since it's considered a higher frequency food? So whenever we eat an animal, we might feel a little bit heavier, a little bit more depressed, a little bit more exhausted, a little bit more anxious. Why? Because they went through that in the slaughterhouse, right? Supposedly we hunted an animal in the wild. We killed it in its most primitive survival state, in its most godly state, right? So that's the beauty of us being able. That's why back in the day it was ritualized, where a hunter would kill an animal, but it blessed it right then and there, and the animal was actually glad to die for that hunter and be eaten by the actual person. No different than us humans.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that before.
Well, I mean, there's different, native. I mean, I could link you with some information that I've read, but you see, even like on an esoteric level, sometimes humanity gets consumed by gods, right? Now, if you're not aware, or like, let's say, self-actualized, that would be actually considered a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? So now the plants have life flowing to and through them, right? The plants are in nature. How do we know that we're not observing the plants having an experience through you the moment you ingested that plant, right?
I know I'm having that experience because of the same reason that I could feel the plants when I'm looking at them, or I can just feel them. Somehow, I get the same feeling of the presence of the plant that, you know how you have the feeling when someone's watching you from behind or something? I mean, you just know, you can just feel their eyes on you or something. I just have that feeling when I'm looking at a plant, when I'm looking at it. It's moving, but it's not moving in the same way that the wind is moving it. It just has its own kind of essence coming out. I see that kind of movement.
And you give life to that plant. You give life to all the plants. See, that's why when I garden, people say I have a green thumb, because my energy gives vibrancy to the plants. Somebody who doesn't have a green thumb is not in their heart space or in the space of passion and love and harmony. The plants actually resonate to a lower frequency and they're not as vibrant as they should be. So the plants actually are beautiful and thriving because of the gardener. That's why we say we have a green thumb. Green is the color of the heart space, right? Green is also the color of money. Neutrality, natural, nature, neutral. But who gives that loving frequency is you. You're the one that impacts the environment. So if I walk my garden, my plants react to my energy, my appreciation and love, and not from an ego space, but from a true unconditional love and passion that I have for gardening in and of itself. The practice of putting a seed in the ground and watching a plant grow is such a mesmerizing experience to me. And it's so much of an enjoyment to me that the plants react to that. In a way, it's kind of like an appreciation, and it's only because of the appreciation I have in that moment as well. So if I'm giving love and appreciation, I'm getting that back in return, because it's a mirror back to me, kind of like when I have an interaction with people. I give life to everybody I'm speaking to. Let's say somebody is very mean in the beginning when I meet them. I can engage in the same way and keep that same frequency they have, or I can actually transmute it and be nice to them to the point where they have no choice but to be nice back to me, because that's just what I birthed in them to give back to me. You get what I'm saying? It's more like a transmuting of energy.
Sometimes
so
it
let's
would
say
work.
somebody says, man,
sometimes it would work and sometimes it won't. I don't know.
Well, it always works. It always works. And the reason why it always works is because you're always going to find the right words to say where it's always going to work. Kind of like the example I gave you in the beginning, where you may not have studied the question that you came across on the test, but you'll just somehow know the answers, only because you're coming from a space of knowing. Like when I speak to somebody, sometimes I just know the right words to use. You know what I'm saying? When you go to court, they use this, man, where you can't, one wrong word incriminates you. One wrong word can change your life around if you're not phrasing things properly. And this is on a legalese and in like court systems and whatnot. But on a natural, just let's say from a natural space where you're not really thinking legalese or anything like that, you're in harmony with nature, right? And because everybody that you speak to, everything interacting with you in your reality is nature. So when you're in a natural, neutral state, you just know the right words to use. Life flows to and through you, but you find the right combinations to open the person up. Kind of like when you have a combination on a lock. The lock needs a combination, and you have to put in the right combinations to open up a lock. So you just know the right words to use, and those are just the right combinations. You have sequence of events, the right frequencies, right? You just know how to neutralize chemistry if it's imbalanced. So that's why you said sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know how it works when you know that you are with God. You get what I'm saying? There is no, sometimes that's just chaotic again, like a leaf flowing around on a windy day. I have to, and it's not always being in control of everything, because the process is God's process. That's not my position to actually handle. Me, for example, I'm in my now moment. I know what I want, and my focus is there. If I start worrying about the process, I'm now having to deal with too many patterns and too many variables, and that's me being chaotic. So I already know what I want. I know what the outcome is going to be. That's why I just know what the right words are going to be, because God is taking care of the process for me already.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's based on scenarios that you get into. I mean, you could say that you're oneness with God, but like, what if the person's like being mean? You'd have to stand up for yourself at some point, right? But in other words, you could either do that, but you can also be nice. But you got to be firm in your beliefs. You got to be firm in your ways.
I'm a very firm person. I'm far from being a passive individual.
I believe you.
You know that, right? I mean, I that's probably the least. But again, if it ever happens, there's an imbalance in me to begin with for that scenario to even happen to begin with. You get what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I feel like certain things just don't happen only because there's no necessity for them to happen, because nothing really happens in my life for them to actually happen.
Well, I'm going to eat my dinner, but
Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this another time. But thank you for coming on Zigzag.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was a pleasure, man. I appreciate you inviting me on and wanting to have this chat, bro.
We could definitely have more chats like it, you know. And also, I like Aaron Berry too. I like that guy, The Awake and Brave. I like that guy.
That's my boy, bro. That's another one I'm always gonna have the utmost respect for, because we've shared countless hours in, like, a space, really going and really talking back and forth about certain really, really deep, provoking topics. And one of the things I really appreciate about him is that he really hangs for hours, and that's something that not a lot of people could do. You know what I'm saying? And his perspective and the things that I went into with him is eye opening, man. I just think he's a brilliant individual, man. He's a very unique individual, interesting individual, and yeah, I'm always gonna have a big level of respect for him.
Yeah.
Anybody that I share a platform with, they always got my respect. And it doesn't matter what the what the terms are. It could be anybody else in debate form. It could be in discussion form. It could be in just chat form. It doesn't matter. They always have my respect.
I love that, man. He's really heartwarming kind of person.
Yeah.
I can tell there's a lot of joy in his heart. Man. Anyway, man, take care.
Go have your dinner, bro. Yeah, hopefully it's a nice big piece of juicy steak.
Probably is.
Yeah. We'll talk soon, all right?
Yeah, have a good one. All right, thank you guys for watching Crescent Story podcast. This has been Crescent Story signing out. Zigzag. Shout out to The Awake and Brave.
Shout out to you.
Leave a comment, like this video, subscribe to my channel for more, and subscribe to Zigzag's channel, linked in the comments, or no, not the comments, but the description below. And yeah.
Thanks, brother. We'll talk soon.
Welcome to the end of the video. If you made it this far, you're an absolute legend. And I absolutely love you. I mean, come on. You watched the video all the way to the end. I mean, you really... Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned for more videos by Crescent Story. My content is continuing to become better and better the more I continue to work on the platform. So, yeah, it's going to be a good experience. I can't wait till I work on my next project. It's a little something to do with Verbal Ace. Just a little sneak preview of what it's going to be. Yeah. Again, thank you guys so much for watching this video up to this point. Like I said, absolute legend.